Alrighty, so this is going to be NTI's day 7 and 8. This is Evolutionary History, Chapter 4, Lesson 1. Oops. So you are going to go Chapter 4, Lesson 1, and we are investigating the Temeti fossil. So in the warm-up, which is the first thing you're going to do, you're going to see that we have a new fossil we are looking at, and it's kind of introducing a new mystery that we're going to solve. So down here's what you see. This is the fossil, and like I said, this is a new mystery fossil. So we want to make some initial observations about it and have some ideas about what we see. So it says here, thinking like a paleontologist, what are your first observations about this fossil? You should be making at least 3 different observations, if not more, because this is our first initial kind of information that we're going to gather based on what we see. Then you're going to click hand in, and the second page, yours looks a little different than mine. And excuse my emails popping in. You will have this down here, a message. You're going to want to read this message, but I'm going to go over pretty much the idea of it here in a second. So this is what you have. So I'm going to go through some slides really quick and give you some information. You need this information because at the end, I have 2 slides with 2 different claims, and you're going to have to pick the claim that you agree with. Pretty much the main idea is that we have this Temeti fossil that we found, well, not we, but a doctor found, and her actual name is Dr. Temeti, which is why it's named after her. And we're trying to figure out where this belongs. And we're trying to figure out if this fossil is more closely related to a ostrich or a crocodile. And I'm going to give you some info. So the first thing is that it was found in China, and this is a dig site in China that is similar to where it could have been found. The next thing is that this is the skull of the fossil, and we've noticed that it has a certain skull hole that is called a fenestra. This skull hole is actually a hole that can be found in specific types of reptiles. So that means that this could have some shared structures with other reptiles and could share some common ancestors. So that's going to be our first little piece of information. The next thing is, like I already told you, you're comparing the Temeti fossil with our ostrich and crocodile and deciding which one you think it's more closely related to. Remember, they put these little soccer balls in here to help you kind of get an idea of the size. So this fossil is not much bigger than a soccer ball, so that's pretty small compared to these two, which are a lot larger. And you can kind of take some other observations about that too. This is a evolutionary tree for reptiles, and you can see reptiles are right here. And reptiles are all a common ancestor of the turtle, ostrich, crocodile, and iguana. Kind of weird to think that an ostrich and other birds are related to crocodiles, iguanas, and turtles, but that is the case. Remember, the last scenario we went through, we found out that whales and wolves were closely related, even though they look very different. Here's claim 1. So claim 1 says the Temeti fossil is more closely related to ostriches, and you can see they plugged it in on the tree right here. And then claim 2 says that the Temeti fossil is more closely related to crocodiles. So pretty much claim 1, you're picking ostriches. Claim 2, you're picking crocodiles. So you need to decide what you think you're going to go with. And like I said, that note is down here for you to read too. And then the third activity, you are going to have some information in here, but you're also going to be completing something outside of the Google Classroom. Or I'm sorry, outside of Amplify in the Google Classroom. That makes more sense. So you'll see you'll get evidence cards, and actually one of the attachments that you have is going to look like this. So this will be attached to the lesson for this, and it has all these evidence cards. So this is going to be an extra attachment in the Google Classroom, and you can see it has a lot of the structures, feet, bones, tail, all of that, and you can read all of those. And this is an example of something you're going to do. And like I already said, this is going to be outside of Amplify, and you'll find it in the Google Classroom. So you get evidence cards like this, and the evidence cards will give a little bit of information. So this one says, the nostril hole is at the front of the skull, up here. There's one huge hole on the top of the skull. There's also many other holes throughout the skull. The Timeti's mouth has sharp, pointy teeth. So that is an observation. The main idea of this activity is you're going to evaluate observations. You're going to evaluate if they're strong or if they're weak. And what they use in this activity is the word precise. Precise means being detailed. So you're pretty much deciding, are these observations good and detailed, or are they kind of vague and not detailed and not helpful? So the blue one here kind of would be what you would think. So why are there so many holes? And then it doesn't seem very precise to say there are also many other holes throughout the skull. So they're saying that they think that saying there's a lot of holes throughout is not a very precise observation. So here's what the assignment looks like that you're going to do. You will get your own copy of this because it will be an assignment in Google Classroom. So you're going to be able to manipulate and move these things here, and I'll show you what that looks like. So the instruction is to arrange the evidence cards according to how precise the observations are. So remember, precise, detailed. You'll see that we have the evidence cards right here, and these are movable. You can move them. And what you're going to do is you're going to move them, and you're going to place them where you think they belong. So the first one is precise evidence, so that's strong, detailed, really helpful evidence. Then our next one is good, but not the most precise. It's kind of medium, kind of helpful, kind of not. And then our last category is not very precise. So not detailed, vague, not helpful. You're going to put them here. Then you will turn this in the Google Classroom. So like I already said, this is going to be an assignment, so make sure you turn it in when you are done. Also make sure you're clicking hand in on all your Amplify assignments. So clicking next. There is a little bit more information about analyzing the observations, but I just talked about that, so you don't need to worry necessarily about that. And like I already said, make sure you're clicking hand in on all of these. And then the last thing is doing the differences or discovering the differences between ostriches and crocodiles. And you're going to be using the simulation to do this, so clicking on that. And while that loads, you're going into vertebrates mode and you're comparing the structures of the crocodile and the ostrich. And what you're going to see down here is you're going to list 3 structures that they share. And then you're going to pick 2 of those structures and talk about any differences you notice. We've talked a lot about this. Just because 2 fossils share a structure does not mean that structure is the same. They could both have a skull, but that does not mean that their skull looks exactly the same. So, vertebrae mode, and then when you get in here, go to the evolutionary tree, and you're going to want to click on vertebrae, and it will bring you down here, and you're going to see that you can click study for the ostrich and study for the crocodile. Remember, they give you 3 tabs, so you can see up here our appearance, our structures, and this is where you're going to really want to look closely. So remember, in the activity, you're picking 3 structures that they share. So I see pelvis, I see some distal bones, radius ulnus, nostril hole. You're going to pick 3 that they share, and then you're going to pick 2 to compare. So an example is, I see they both have a pelvis here and here, but I notice that those pelvises are very different from each other. This one is obviously way larger, and this one is obviously smaller. I can see some structure differences. It has these 2 little separate parts. This one doesn't. Things like that. You're going to kind of compare the differences of at least 2 of these structures. And then you're going to make sure that you hand in. So quick recap. Warm up. This is just information. This is just information, but you will need to submit the assignment in Google Classroom, which is this. And don't forget, these will be attached for you to look at. And then do the homework and hand in, and that is it for 4.1. And that means you are done with NTI days 7 and 8.